everyone, welcome to Kingdom Builder TV. I'm your host, Jay Heilman. Thank you so much for joining us today. My guest has been in the music business for well over 50 years now, and in both mainstream and Christian music. And I'm so thankful and grateful today to be joined by the legendary vocalist from the band Petra, John Schlitt. John, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good, Jay. How about you, buddy?
I'm
Thanks,
doing
thanks for
great.
having me. Thanks for letting me talk. You know me, I love talking.
Well, we love I love your music. I love what you guys do, and I'm excited that Petra is still continuing on. And when I use the phrase 50 years, does it seem like it's been that long since you've been in the music industry?
Only if I sit down and think about it. Yeah, if I start remembering all the memories, all the different phases, it actually makes sense. Yeah, with all that's gone on in my life, it would have taken 50 years to do all that. And but each day is a new day, and you just never think about it, but they add up to 50 years. And so, hey, you know what? This day is going to add up to the next 50 years. So it's just one of those things where you just keep doing what you do and look back and say, thank you, Jesus. And what's next?
Amen. Well, you got your first foray in the music scene, founding the band Head East back in the tail end of the 1960s, and you guys released your first record, Flat as a Pancake, 50 years ago. And take us back to that period of time. What was the music landscape like when you guys were getting started? I mean, are there bands that kind of stick out to you,
Oh, yeah.
bands that you enjoyed touring with and playing with back then?
I did. Actually, Head East was an amazing bar band. I mean, actually, we were a sock hop band when I first joined, which means we were playing to a bunch of grade school kids and in places where you take your shoes off and you dance in your socks. And that was called sock hops. And when I joined the band, we went from that pretty quickly to a college bar band, which was like the next level up, and it really exploded. The first, and that was my summer between my freshman and sophomore year in college, and it just exploded. We were playing. I went to University of Illinois. That's where Petra or the Head East was from at the time, and we ended up playing all about a 4 or 5 state area in all the college bars that were happening. And that was really sort of the circuit that we were in that helped us develop into what we were, along with REO and Styx and Cheap
Great
Trick,
band.
Michael McDonald, and I mean that was the circuit that you played in. Kiss, um, um, Rush. It all depended on which state you're in. Like that was more Michigan, but it was a circuit that you really learned how your trade. And it was funny, you were a copy band at the time, most of the time, but you started writing your own stuff and you developed, and then you started playing more of your own stuff than the copy stuff, but you'd say it was from Three Dog Night or whatever. So the bar owner wasn't thinking you're trying to pull something on him. So it was an exciting time. And then when we did our first record, which we actually was going to be a demo record to present to labels, it did really well in the Midwest, and we ended up signing with our management that we had for years, and through their connections, we ended up having labels come to us. And then during that time, I mean, we toured with just about every band that was in the U.S., and it was an exciting time. I mean, if it would have just been the music and the fans, it would have been an amazing time for me. But the problem is, even if you're doing your dream, if you're doing a musician's dream, which we were, after you do it every night over and over, you get it gets boring. So you
Yeah.
start looking for that next high, which in my case turned into booze and later on cocaine, and that's where it started to be not so cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, looking back at that period of time. You would later go on to front the band Petra, and you guys kind of got your start around the same time. Petra was starting
Yeah.
in 1972. You guys, released your major label debut in 74. Now, you guys were separated back then by a state. You guys were from Illinois. Petra was from Indiana. When you were touring with Head East, were you aware of Petra, or did
No,
you heard of the
no,
band back then?
no, actually, what's funny is we were closer than than you think. Petra's first album and second album was recorded in the same studio, almost within a month that the first two albums that Head East recorded in.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, almost one after another each time. But I never knew anything about Petra except on the second record. We were doing the second record. The engineer, who was also a bass player, was telling us that he had just been part of a band called. He played bass for this band called Petra, and it was a Christian band. I looked at it as a Christian band, and that's the only time I'd ever heard the name Petra
Mm,
until I got saved and stopped listening to music altogether. And one day somebody handed me a Petra record that says, "This sounds just like your old record, but Christian." I said, "Yeah, right." And sure enough, it did. And it just opened my eyes to a whole new genre. And I love Petra. From that minute on, I thought Petra was amazing. I thought they had used rock in such a positive way, and that I had wished that I could have been in a band like Petra. Not
yeah.
regretting Head East. I mean, Head East was a part of an important part of my life, both positive and negative. But Petra, it just seemed to me, was the way you should use rock and roll.
Yeah, so jump forward a little bit, back in we're talking about like 1980, 1981. You had left Head East and you had left music altogether. And for a 5-year period of time, you didn't do anything with
Yeah.
music. And looking back on that period of time, you and your lovely wife Dorla have been married now for almost 53 years. But at that point in time, you guys were married for about a decade at that point. Was she ever back then, was she ever like giving you an ultimatum and saying, John, you got to get yourself together? Tell us about that 5-year period of time when you were out of music before joining
Well,
Petra.
the beginning of that 5-year time when I got fired from Head East because of my drugs and alcohol addiction, I went on basically 6-month binge with the excuse that I was going to create a new band. And what I mean by that is by that time I'm really hooked on cocaine, and the booze just went right along with it. And so I was pretty much for 6 months high almost 24 hours a day, either on
Mm.
on booze or on coke, and until my money ran out. And even then, I was still trying. Went into further debt because of it. And that same 6-month period, my wife becomes a Christian, which for someone who wants to be a rock star and show the world he doesn't need that band, and meanwhile he's in a zone of cocaine and booze, having your wife be a Christian was not a cool thing
Mm.
because I'm sitting around my pity party and she's all just happy as a lark going to Bible studies and stuff. And I'd make the mistake of saying, "What world are you living in?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm glad you asked. Can I tell?" And I said, "Oh, here it comes.
Mm.
No, I want to hear about Jesus." And she'd lay back and was very patient with me for those 6 months. And then finally, um, even up to the end of that 6 months, an event happened where I feel like the boy said, "You know what? You're worth more dead than alive." And I totally accepted it. I sat in a chair, determining a gun was too messy for my kids. So I'm sitting in my chair, trying to figure out what would be the best combination of pills I could use that would be as quick and painless as possible. And she tapped me on the shoulder, says, "Remember, you promised you'd come and talk to my pastor tonight." I said, "When?" She says, "Last night when you were drunk." And I said, "Okay, I will," because I wanted her to remember that I tried. So I went into that pastor's house with nothing but um, an attitude that I knew what I was going to do and nobody was going to change it. Walked in with that, walked out with the Holy Spirit, and it changed my life. Now,
Amen.
did I stop playing music No, because by that time, that band that I had spent 6 months forming was starting to go out and do shows in bars. I mean, the most low rent bars you could find. It was a step backwards that I still do. I grant cringe every time I think about it. But we would go out on the weekends. I'd come back, and as a Christian, I was going out, and the temptations were just destroying me. And I would come back and had fallen, I'm not going to do this, and I'd do it again. And the church that we were going to believed in me and prayed for me and all this. And finally, my wife says, John, you can't do this anymore. So I get together my management, my booking agent, all my in-laws, and we have this major meeting in my parents' house. And I make the announcement, I'm quitting. I'm quitting music. And from my uncle who said, you can't quit music. You're a rocker. You're going to be a rocker the rest of your life. And my mom, who was a professional dancer before, well, maybe give it a little bit more chance, and all this management saying, you've got 4 labels that want to sign. The typical, you make a point of saying, I'm going to clean up my act and I'm going to start over. And you have all this temptation coming in and going, just a little bit more. And finally, my wife saw that I was starting to slip back into well, maybe I should give it a little more. She comes over to me, whispers, says, listen, it's music or me. And that truly was the most comforting statement I could have, because there was no decision to be made. It was okay right there. Okay, it's over. And I remember all the open mouths of all the people that thought that there's no way I'd ever do it. And I remember that statement. That statement was very important. It's music or me. And that carried with me for actually 5 years. And so I gave up music. I mean, when I gave up music, I stopped listening to music altogether, because it was still, I love rock. I love the genre of rock and roll. I love the structure of it. I love the excitement of it. I love the harmonies that when you've got a good singers that can do it. It was always interesting to me, but it also brought back those memories that would start tempting me back. So I said, okay, stop it all. And I didn't listen to music at all. Couldn't listen to Christian music because the stuff that was out there was like, I mean, to me, it was boring. It was boring. I'd rather not listen to music. And
Yeah.
so until someone handed me that Petra record and said, this is just like your old band, I could listen to that. And so I became a big Petra fan over this 5-year period, while I became an engineer and a mining construction engineer and a cost and scheduling. It went through quite a phase, thought that was it. That was the American dream. I was going to be an engineer. My kids were going to go to Christian school. I had a great church, my first home. That was the American dream. That was it. And God goes, that's not it, John. Don't be content. This is not it. And lo and behold, shortly after, Bob Hartman from Petra called me and said, would you consider singing for Petra? And I remember that, music or me. And I'm going, oh boy, I looked at my wife, and somehow she had known what Bob was calling, and she was dancing and praising God and all this. And I said, well, looks like it can work. But she's always been a very important part of my decision making, especially when it comes to religious or spiritual things. So yeah, she's a dynamo, always has been, always will be.
Yeah, and I was looking at you can never fully trust everything you read online. I was reading that your first show with Petra was actually on your 36th birthday. Um, and that first album, I remember when I interviewed you years ago, I'd also interviewed John Elefante, which is a good friend of yours, who also produced that record Back to the Street. And I remember him
Well, he
telling me,
was a
like,
terror.
yeah, John told
Oh,
me, he's like, when we took John Schlitt into the studio, he was really rusty. He's like, I had a lot of work to do because he hadn't sung in 5 years. And, but you would never know that by the finished product. When you hear Back to the Street, you listen to it and it's like, wow, Elefante did some magic and wonders with you for
No,
that
he
record.
just beat me up. He beat me up until I got it right. That
Oh,
just
he told me
uh,
about that.
when I was when he says rusty, it just means that it took me 5, 10 times as long to get what I wanted to get and what he wanted to get than it would have normally. And I appreciate John so much. Like I said, we're very good friends. Uh, he was the right guy for me to help me through that 5 year rust and to not regret, once a record's done, it's there forever. It's part of your life. You have to, you can listen to it. And I'm very content with the fact that it was the first record. It was, and on top of that, it had to be the record that followed Beat the System, and that to me was a fantastic record. But Bob wanted to go totally different direction. So I had to make sure the vocals of this new Petra stood the the I don't know the critics and
The
all that.
Petra
So
test, yeah.
yeah, the test of the critics, and it did, and I give John a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, and John is I've got to know John very well over the last several years, and he's a he pulls no punches. He says what he
Oh
means what he
no no
says.
no.
I mean, he's very outspoken and forthright. And you guys do projects now, like as far as Jay Sekulow band, which I very much enjoy the covers with that. And when going back to those days when you were doing early Petra,
Hmm?
I know that that was like kind of a new learning experience for you because you were entering a whole different genre of music. And since the Back to the Street record, you guys, you released several records with Petra, including the still awesome Beyond Belief, which is one of my favorite Christian records. And you've done 6 solo records over the years up to now. And then you also have another band, aside from Petra, that you do with your friend and Christian rocker Billy Smiley from White Heart, and also solo artist Jason Fowler, which is a good friend of mine. And now we're coming to today, 2024. Back in 2006, Petra released a farewell live record, and a lot of fans really thought that that was going to be it for Petra. That the John
Yeah,
Schlitt
and so did
Petra
we.
was done.
Yeah, so did we. Actually, we recorded in 2004. No, 2005. And we toured that as a farewell, and it truly was. That tour was to tell all the fans, thank you very much. Uh, thank you for your support. It was we appreciate. I think we spent more time signing autographs afterwards so we could talk to everyone than we did the show. And the tour was very successful on a smaller scale. And
Mm.
that's what we wanted. It was like just to say thank you. And at that tour, we absolutely meant it was done. It was over because the industry didn't care about us anymore. The promoters weren't. They didn't want to have anything to do with us. Well, if then why do anything else? If self gratification or just to do it for your own enjoyment, that's a waste of time, a lot of waste of
Yeah.
money. So we said, okay, we have been very blessed over 3, 4 generations. Hey, you certainly can't complain. Thank you, Jesus. Now, who's next? And so we totally thought that was over. And for 20 years, it really was. I mean, there were times when we would go out and do benefits or revivals, this kind of thing, usually in South America or in Europe, which was fun. It got us back together a little bit and enjoyed it. But in 2022, um, even during the COVID garbage, Bob called me and says, it's been 50 years. Maybe we should do something, to say thank you again. We should celebrate the fact that we're still all alive and that Petra's been through 50 years of ministry and still really in a roundabout way still around. So we thought, well, 6, 7 shows, maybe over a year, that we could say thank you. And 6, 7 years have gone over a 3-year period, and I think we're up to, I don't know, 60. And even more happening this year, and now next year they're already trying to book us. So, Bob,
So
we actually
retirement's not a part of you and
no,
Bob's vocabulary.
no. And when you have a band like Petra, who that, as a singer, I can say this: we got the musicianship of it that's so good, and you have such a collection of songs that have been timeless. And as long as God allows me to keep singing, we go out there as a ministry that uses music to bring across the fact that Jesus Christ is alive and well and
Amen.
has a plan. And for all that haven't been part of that family yet, why not? It's just, it's what we do. It's what God's allowed us to do, and He keeps opening doors using these skills He's given us. Like I said, we don't. There's nothing to prove. We don't have to build a career. Uh, it's just what we're supposed to do. And if people keep wanting us to do it, let's do it. And if people, and a lot of our shows are folks that have been part of us over the 50 years, and they come back to remember, and they come back saying, hey, this may be the last time we see them, which it could be. You don't know.
Yeah.
And But it's a great celebration. It's been a lot of fun. Just again, house full of memories and new memories, bringing their kids and grandkids, and they're all with mouths open, going, "What is
I love it.
this?
Yeah,
Is it?"
and I love it too because I didn't get a chance to see you perform with Petra. I've got a chance to meet you in person, and we've talked through text and on the phone and stuff like that, but I had never got a chance to see you with Petra. So when this tour came up, I'm like, please let this tour come through Florida. And I know last year you guys were up at Murray Hill Theater in Jacksonville, but
Right.
that's like a 3.5 hour drive for me. So I'm thinking, man, I hope it gets closer. And my wish has come true because with 2024, you guys have a Florida leg of this tour that you guys are doing this week.
Mhm.
Uh, Tomorrow, you guys will actually be in Sanford, which is just outside of Orlando. Friday, you will be in Fort Myers. Saturday, you'll be in Hudson, which is in the Tampa Bay area, which is the show
Mhm.
I'll be at. And then Sunday, you'll close out in Orange Park, which is up in Jacksonville. And what can fans that are coming out to these Florida shows expect from this Petra Best for Last tour?
We have tried our best to try to represent the 50 years of music. You got to understand that is a lot. That is hard. It's hard to do, but I think we've represented it well. Added a few songs from last year just because of request, and a little. I think it's honed very well. Like I said, the band's playing great. I'm not doing too shabby as far as singing. It's it Folks that have grown up with us are going to be very, very happy. It's an exciting night. Um, it's an exciting night of memories, exciting night of ministry, and exciting. If you've got friends that have never heard of Petra or have never heard, no, let's put it, have never been part of Christ, and you believe that Petra can do something, that we can be a tool to help you, bring them. That's what it's all about. Bring your friends. It's an exciting night. It's rock and roll, an exciting music venture, but it's also an exciting subject matter, Jesus Christ. So
Amen.
it's a very rare time when you can have an amazing time uh, uh, praising the Lord. And that's what we try to do.
Agreed, and I can't wait. And I got a sneak peek at the set list that you guys are gonna be doing for the Florida shows. So
How did you get that?
there's some surprises that are in
Yeah.
store for these Florida dates, and I can't wait. Like I said, I've been wanting to see you perform with Petra. Bob Hartman is a legend as far as
Yes.
guitarists go. I mean, I'm really excited to meet him because I've been a guitarist for 27 years, and I can't even light a candle to his playing. But I'm excited to be able to see the legendary Bob Hartman play. And then, you know, you've got John Lowry, you've got, you're joined on this tour by
Greg Bailey
Greg Bailey,
and Christian
Cristiano
Barney.
Borneo. So you've
Yeah.
you've got some talented musicians
Yes.
around you for this, not only this 50th anniversary tour, but these Florida dates. So I'm excited to see you on Saturday. And that kind of brings us, you know, to the closing. You know, first off, I want to say thank you to you, to Bob, to every member that has been a part of Petra over the last 50 years, because you guys have certainly brought to the music scene, especially the Christian music scene, songs of hope, songs of encouragement, songs that you can rock out to, but most importantly, songs that point people to Jesus. And I just appreciate your guys' unwavering stand and support for Jesus in all that you guys do. And I'm thankful to be a part of, you know, the legacy of Petra moving forward and everything that you guys are doing. So I greatly appreciate you joining me today, and can't wait to see you out on the road this weekend with the band. And in closing, is there anything else that you want to shout out to fans that are watching this right now?
Well, Jay, I just thank you for giving this time, letting folks know that these shows do exist. There's still seats. Come and be part of the event. All four shows are unique in themselves. Um, uh, Folks that are there will not be unhappy, will not be dissatisfied. We have several solo artists they're both actually a lady and a guy that both have their own future, I think, in Christian music. So we're trying to bring in the new and the old, and it's an exciting evening. We've been blessed through the last. This is the third year of a 50th anniversary, and it's been amazing. Starting way back when.
Well, I can't wait to see it. Well, where can people get more information on this tour? What's the website that they can go to get tickets and information on this, not only the Florida dates, but the remainder of this 2024 50th anniversary tour?
I think you just go to Petra's 50th anniversary tour or Best for Last tour. Just look up Petra, you'll find it.
Awesome. Well, John, I pray that the Lord continues to use you and the guys in the band, and just continues to honor and glorify the name of Jesus and all you guys do. Thank you so much for joining us today, brother. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Jay. Thank you. Good to talk to you.